Welcome back. This is day 2. And the question I asked you yesterday, and I'm asking you again today, is are you ready for a mindset and money upgrade? Here's your plan. And like I said, today is day 2. So Julie, the feedback that we got on day 1 was, I think, very surprising.
Yeah.
People were getting it, getting why we were trying to present this information to them. A lot of folks were saying, I really appreciate it. It was very timely, all those types of messages. So that was really nice. And I appreciate the fact that they understood that our intention was to help them with their inevitable, end of year holiday mindset challenges. And so I appreciate the feedback. If you guys ever want to give us feedback, remember, we're always interested in what you have to say. You can message us on Instagram, and our handle is Tim and Julie Harris, or you can just actually text me at 512-758-0206. Either way. So Julie, let's roll into day 2.
All right. So we're focusing on ways to show gratitude. Of course, this is the month of gratitude, but it's also to get you into the habit of showing gratitude in a multitude of different ways so that you can bring some opportunity to yourself so that you can keep your mindset straight. And some of these points we'll go through kind of fast, but I want them to really pay attention and adopt them as habits. So if they want to get the notes, how do they do it?
Well, exactly. So go to harrisrealestatedaily.com. And I have to say, Julie, the build-up from yesterday's show into today's show makes it absolutely critical that they go back and listen to yesterday's show if they didn't listen to it, because it really does help to put your mindset in a place to receive these additional points. So without belaboring what we talked about yesterday, please do go back and listen to yesterday's show. And you can do so and actually have the notes if you subscribe to the newsletter, harrisrealestatedaily.com. It is our daily newsletter. It costs you nothing, and all you've got to do is go to harrisrealestatedaily.com, drop in your email address, and remember the next step is critical. You've got to pop over to your own email, Google or rather Gmail or whatever it is, and then you have to confirm that you want the subscription. And then once you do that, you'll start getting it every single day, along with a video of the podcast, audio recording of the podcast, and most importantly, all of our notes. So harrisrealestatedaily.com. Make sure you do that right away if you've not done so already.
All right, so on to point number 7. Tim, you did a great job introducing this topic or this series yesterday. So yesterday was the intro plus points 1 through 6. Today we're starting on 7. Show enthusiastic thanks. For example, you can use phrases like, you really made a difference, and avoid defaulting to just thanks, or not even saying thank you. The extra enthusiasm makes it memorable. You might even adopt your specific phrase that people get to know you for, like, it was absolutely my pleasure, or something like that. I pay attention to how, like on interviews or podcasts I'm listening to, how people enter the conversation, and then, if they said, thanks for being with us today, and the person they were interviewing says, anytime, or it's my pleasure. It does make a difference beyond just the cursory thanks.
When we get thanks from coaching clients, we always end it with, thank you for the honor of being your coach.
Exactly.
Because that's how we feel. So if you can kind of have your own little slogan, if you will, that's probably not the right way of expressing it, but it does make a meaningful impact.
Yes. And related to that, point number 8, compliment specific qualities. Recognize unique traits in people around you. A specific compliment, like notice somebody's sense of humor, their positivity, maybe their smile. It makes them feel seen. And this goes for both of these points, I think, go in handwritten cards as well. Enthusiastic, specific thanks. There's a great book that I should have put in our notes here called The Art of the Handwritten Note. And it talks about this, that the more personal you make it, it shows that you are actually paying attention to that person and not just kind of, paying it lip service.
Well, so thank you for reminding me. The links, there are a lot of links in today's notes and yesterday's notes that will give you access to a lot of the things we're talking about for free. A lot of times they're free downloads. So again, got to get the notes, become a subscriber to harrisrealestatedaily.com. So Julie, you mentioned handwritten notes. You told me something this morning. So we had Zoe enrolled in a manners class,
yes,
and it actually seemed to work. I have to
etiquette,
say.
I know.
The etiquette, an etiquette class. So it did seem to take. But you said that the gal running the program ended yesterday with giving them 5 handwritten
Well, for giving the girls, this was their last session, so she gave them a really nice boxed set, each of them, personalized with their names on them, of stationery. And that because part of the lesson was how to write a proper thank you card, how to write a congratulations card. And then she had them do it so she could watch their writing, how they opened it and how they closed it. And I thought that was really fantastic. That is part of having good manners.
Well, I mean, we could talk about manners because we've been having a lot of issues with manners in our own personal life, right?
Yes.
I mean, socially, people are really don't really understand the boundaries of how to conduct themselves sometimes. And it's
adults and kids.
Adults, yeah, but then guess what? The kids act just like their parents do.
This is
so
true.
It is kind of fascinating when you live. You guys have seen this yourselves in different communities. Let me just punchline it or bottom line it for you. is that when you see people being, let's just say, I don't want to even say inappropriate. Let's just say not having the manners that you try to have for yourself and your family, don't take it personally. And we actually had that lesson from our own daughter. I mean,
she's very good
do you
at
mind if I
bouncing
tell the
back.
story?
Without names, yeah.
Okay. So she was not invited to a birthday party. And the person, for reasons that she wasn't really clear, other than the fact that the birthday party was largely themed Taylor Swift, and Zoe doesn't
Not her fave.
Zoe does not like Taylor Swift. She's 11 because, frankly, she doesn't like what Taylor Swift stands for. It doesn't like the lyrics. And I know Zoe, and even though she claims she wasn't, she most likely was a little bit too preachy to her friends.
Probably.
About why maybe Taylor Swift was not age appropriate.
Yeah.
Knowing Zoe, that's probably what happened.
Yeah.
So that got her, off a list to go to a birthday party of one of her friends. And that's the assumption we've made. Well, it created, if you think about the ramifications amongst a fifth grader and all of her friends going to a party and her not going to getting invited to a party, that actually was really bad manners, not on the part of the daughter, but on the part of the mom. Because the mom should have known and understood and appreciated the ramifications, because there were a lot of kids there of disinviting Zoe just for the sake of something silly that she allowed the kids to manifest. And the ramifications go beyond obviously just the kids' relationships with each other, but also the adults' relationships. And Julie and I were talking about this because this happened last weekend. And Julie is like, she was internalizing it. She was asking, well, did I do something? Was there some other thing going on? And then
I had 5 days of introspection. I'll be honest.
Yeah, well, just discuss that because it does matter.
Yeah, well, so I think that there is related to manners and handling situations, whether they're with adults or kids or both. I think it is wise to always look internally. And I also have asked, was there something that was done or said? I look inward first before I go looking to blame anybody. So I did go through a process of that and, examined the situation. There was a lie involved. There was false expectations. There were tentacles of this that were beyond just not being invited to something.
Well, let me help you out here. So what was happening was her brain, she's a person, right? Her brain was starting to fire off in different directions and she was starting to internalize this, I think, bad manners, this oversight. She was looking for her subconscious mind was looking for reasons to basically, maybe even take it personally.
I went through all the emotions. First, I started pissed because I was, mama bear to my kid. Then I was disappointed because she was very upset. Then I was kind of outraged. And then it was, all right, what am I going to do about this? Right. Taking action.
And so what she did is she went up to the mom and she you confronted her. And so talk about that.
I did a help me understand conversation.
So
lightly scripted.
But this goes to manners, okay? So when somebody slights you and they have bad manners, you should script yourself to basically be able to say something without being confrontational, so they kind of understand that you think that this was not within the boundaries of correct behavior, especially in a community. And you got to say that. And one of the things I was taught by a pastor we know named Ray Robinson. This was a long time ago, but he and I are having this exact same conversation. And he also, interestingly enough, built churches. That was his main business. He was a pastor. But he said when, he learned that when he ever has any sort of misunderstandings with anybody, he'll go up to them and he'll start out by saying, even if he doesn't really, just to basically, I think, in a way, kind of take them back and put them on their heels respectfully and with love.
Sure.
He says, I apologize if I offended you in any way.
Yes, that's a nice diplomatic way of, not what I didn't want to do. And I appreciate you bringing up Ray because he did give us some good early scripting on that. Also a real estate client.
Well, yes, he was a real estate client. But the reason that we were doing a lot of real estate transactions with him and he was doing some spec home builds and whatnot, and because we are so successful, I mean, this is what our competitors told us. We just showed up in this, high-end New Albany Country Club area and started doing a lot of real estate transactions right away. And a lot of the agents didn't know what we were doing. And all we were doing is just working our asses off, basically.
Right. They had an element of WTF before that.
Right.
acronym
and some of them were they were just very competitive and didn't know what to do with their emotions. And I talked to Ray about this, and he's the one that told me to go up to them and say, listen, I'm sorry if I offended you in any way. And I was just, wanting to know, and then you follow up with a compliment that I really appreciate what what you represent in the community, things like that. Mm-hmm. So they were all expecting Julie and I to be big standoffish, jerks.
And combative, potentially.
And combative and overly competitive and just big ego-y messes. But then when we didn't take that stance, it was unbelievable how fast, not every time, there were a couple that just wanted to hold on to their, their bad behavior.
Yeah.
But the rest of them became friends with us after that because we sort of just, repositioned the way that they thought about us just with that one little script. I'll just go through it again. So if someone is essentially, even if they intentionally, or I'd say not even intentionally, but without thought or malice, but they still offended you, don't be offended and carry that around forever. Instead, go up to them when it's appropriate and say, listen, I apologize if I offended you in any way. It certainly wasn't my intention. I have a lot of respect for, and then just give them a compliment. And that's all it's going to take.
It's de-escalation.
It's de-escalation in such a classy, high-level way that they don't really know what the hell to do with it. And if they're adversarial by nature, if they're just sort of like little mini sociopaths by nature, and there are a lot of people out there like that, and you confront them like that in a nice, respectful, almost loving way, it really does reframe all future conversations with them. I'm not saying you're going to have them over for a Thanksgiving dinner, but at the very least, they are not going to probably have you on their list of people that they should be trying to malign behind your back.
Yeah, and you're setting a good example with that behavior as well.
Yeah, so if you got anybody in your life that's acting like that way towards you, and maybe it's in your real estate office or your neighborhood or whatever, opposed to just putting them on a list of people that are naughty. We're coming up on Christmas, so it's naughty and nice. Why don't you instead move them to the nice list? Opposed to just brushing them under the carpet and just say these are just bastards I'll never get along with. Why don't you instead try to lend them an olive branch, even if in your mind, even if the way you think right now, they don't deserve it. Like they absolutely 100% deserve your, vitriol as much as you can possibly send it their direction. Why don't you instead go the opposite direction and take the positioning that I just suggested, and you will rise to the next level internally. Your internal barometer of what you're capable of, when you see you make this enemy into at least somebody who is friendish, will change your life forever. So going back to your example, okay, which wasn't as extreme as the things that we'd run into occasionally in real estate,
right.
But this was just somebody that was probably just being thoughtless.
Yes, I would agree with that. But I like how you describe that, because when you take the high road, but let somebody know that you're aware of the situation, you are not just having good manners, but you also are doing good things for yourself, your soul, your mindset, because you don't carry it around anymore. I feel very relieved that I had that conversation.
Well, you went up and you nicely confronted her, and then you said, what would you say?
I said, help me understand what happened with the birthday party, because I was under the impression that there wasn't going to be one. And our daughter had some kind of messed up expectations finding out that there was one. And, we had a discussion about that. She apologized, and it's fine. But now that I've had that conversation, I can realize how much I was internalizing that. And I don't like that. I'm going to have a policy, and I'm not, looking for a fight from anybody. I want to de-escalate and keep the peace for us, for our family, for our kid, but also on some level to maybe set an example for manners going forward amongst our community, amongst the neighborhood, the school community, things like that. And I do think, and I think you'll agree with this, I feel like the country is going to move towards that more.
Me too.
With, we could call it manners or etiquette, but how we treat each other. I would hope that that's the direction.
You and I talked about this a few days ago, and you're still parsing your words, okay? Because you're afraid of offending anybody that's listening.
Well, people are on a knife's edge these days.
And I'm taking the opposite stance. I don't want to necessarily hide my light in a barrel anymore.
No, I'll get
so
there.
what you're talking about, Julie, is Christian values.
Yes,
that is what you're talking about.
Well, it is say what you will, listeners, don't get triggered, but it was what the founding fathers put together, Judeo-Christian principles, beliefs. In the case of today's podcast, manners would be part of that. And I think getting back to that is good for the country overall. I do believe that.
Sometimes what's really interesting is people don't know, they don't actually know why they're acting a particular way towards you, or even that their behavior was being interpreted as being adversarial towards you.
Right. There's no drill down behind the comment.
Exactly. They're just kind of jerks. And you will find this to be very useful for stressed out real estate clients. My brain is filling with all the examples of dealing with sellers sometimes because they're going through so much stress. But again, this time of year brings out a lot of, the good in people, but also brings out a lot of the bad in people. Mm-hmm. So rise above it. Don't get pulled into it. Don't internalize it. And if you find yourself feeling attacked in any way, either minor league attacked or full on attacked, you need to go to them and you need to say, listen, I apologize if I offended you in any way. Or Julie's stance, which was more direct, help me understand. Help me understand what I did wrong. Help me understand what we can do to get this relationship back on track.
Which is not what I probably felt I wanted to say.
No.
I had other scripts in my head, so that's maybe why we're doing part of this podcast.
Yeah, but we're trying to help you guys to understand that the positioning that you want to have in your own worlds is someone that essentially is rising above the fray, because that ultimately gives you power.
Yes, and you need to be the leader, in my opinion. And, we did do thousands of real estate transactions. I know what you guys go through. Tim knows what you guys go through. Sometimes sometimes it's with your own clients. Sometimes it's with the other agent, and it can be very contentious. And it drives me nuts when agents go after each other instead of, being the leader in the transaction, doing what's right for your clients, setting an example for the other side. And you can use phrases like "help me understand" or "I'm sorry if I offended you in some way," versus taking the adversarial, confrontational route, which simply escalates things.
Well, even if you internalize it to what, Julia called herself out on her own internalization, how that was basically brewing up a stew of nastiness. Mm-hmm. But here's, I think, another thing to think about. People spend virtually all their time thinking about themselves.
That's human nature.
It's human nature. Everyone does.
I think it comes from original survival programming.
Well, am I hungry? Am I tired? Am I this?
Something
am I the other
going to eat
thing?
me.
Am I happy? Am I sad? Do I feel acknowledged? Am I getting recognition? Me. That's, your internal 3-year-old basically is always omnipresent. Even when you're a mom or you're a dad and you're around kids, you can, obviously focus all your best energies on them. By the way, that's one of the beautiful things about doing a really high-level coaching call is that gives you a half hour or 45 minutes or an hour, depending on the client, where you can really totally unplug from all those sort of interly focused, egotistical type thoughts. There's no place for those in a meaningful coaching call. It's not about you in any way. You're there just to listen and help the other person at the highest level use all your strengths and all your abilities. And if you have any integrity at all after you're done with that coaching call, if you didn't leave it all on the field for that client, you feel terrible about it. I mean, I don't imagine, hopefully you guys understand what I'm saying. But the moral of the story is that really what this will help you do is get yourself in alignment and stay in alignment with the reality that your highest, truest purpose on this planet is to be of service to other people. And if you find yourself internalizing things or thinking that people in general are thinking bad thoughts about you, they're not. They're thinking about themselves all the time. They're caught in their own little quagmires of emotions. And if you think that they think anything about you other than when you make them feel good, that's the only thing that they'll remember ultimately is how you made them feel, so make them feel good. That's going to be what will cause you guys to become legendary in your lives and your marketplaces. If you want to have a reputation, if you want to build a brand of somebody truly spectacular, these are all little breadcrumbs that will help you get there a little bit quicker.
That's a good way to summarize all of these points we're doing today and tomorrow. So point number 9, volunteer for other people's causes. Look for volunteer opportunities related to causes that your clients support. You can use a website like Volunteer Match to help you find local events. But what I would do is I would go through all of your social media, especially this time of year, and see what charitable events your friends are doing, your past clients are doing. And you don't have to necessarily give them money. You can give them your time. But that's a great way to be supportive. Agents ask all the time, I'm supposed to give something of value. Giving your time is of value too.
Well, so many wonderful things you can do this time of year. Toy drives, you can do food drives.
We're going to get to those.
Yes. Oh, I don't want to step on your points.
That's
all right. Point number 10, stay gracious in tough situations.
Yes. When a situation becomes difficult, not that that ever happens in real estate, pause and take a deep breath. Respond thoughtfully and keep the focus on resolution instead of just winning.
We just gave you a bunch of little scripted
Lots.
mindset ideas. But really, the best scripts don't work if you don't use them. And if you find yourself, like right now, I challenge all of you, think about who in your life right now, when you think of their name, causes your blood to boil ever so slightly. Everyone's got somebody, right? Now, opposed to thinking about why you feel that way towards them or why they feel that way towards you, all the rest of it, why don't you maybe take the high road and use one of the scripted approaches that Julie and I just said and just call them up and say, listen, I was thinking about it. I just realized that I just feel like I've offended you in some way and our relationship hasn't gone in the direction it has. You can edit and modify that depending, but don't take away the gist of it, which is to completely totally fall on your sword, basically, and give them the opportunity to feel superior to you in that very moment. And then in doing so, they're going to probably drop their guard, and they're then going to apologize for their bad behavior. And they too will admit they don't know why they necessarily have felt that way about you. And then, who knows what happens after that.
That's right. And then the air will be cleared for both of you. All right. Number 11, accept compliments gracefully. Practice saying things like, thank you, I really appreciate it, to make accepting compliments feel natural and sincere.
And you can even add to that, you can say something like when somebody gives you a compliment. By the way, remember we talked about yesterday, if you want compliments, give compliments. If you want gratitude, or if you want recognition, give recognition. If you want love, give love. Don't wait around for it to show up in your life. You have to give it away first, and then it'll come back usually by 10 or 15 fold. So remember we told you that. I do want to say this, Julie.
What?
With regards to people that have offended you in the past, especially if they've done it unknowingly, and I know doesn't necessarily sound in alignment with what we just said, but it's very true. You want to forgive because there's no benefit in carrying around that energy, but you don't want to forget. So if someone offended you, or if someone did something just in your life that wasn't in alignment with your morals, your values, your ethics, you want to forgive them, but you don't want to forget that they did it. Because sometimes people are just straight up, and I'll use the word again, I don't use it lightly, sociopaths. They are so wrapped up in themselves to the point where they don't even care about the destruction they leave in their wake. And some of those people are in your life. Some of those people might be in your household. Some of those people, you can't avoid them. Well, obviously, if you can, do avoid them. Just, wash them out of your life. But if if you can't do that, then do take into consideration you need to forgive them, because not forgiving them and just holding that inside actually erodes yourself. But don't forget that they acted that way. If someone what would be the word? Affronts, not affronts. What would be a better word?
Offends.
Offends.
Confronts, offends. There's versions.
If they do it once, and you are essentially, you have to assume that they're going to do it again. They're like bullies. And so definitely use one of our scripts. If someone does that once, they're going to see what your reaction is going to be, because they get a little high out of basically stirring things up. So go to them and, again, use one of our little scripted approaches there. You can come up with some of your own, and then really de-escalate it. Let them know that you're not going to play the game. Let them know that you're not going to make an enemy out of you, but you better remember that they acted that way, and if you don't, they will do it again. That's just the nature of some people.
And if you're lucky, maybe it was a small mistake, a slip up, and that's not what they lead with. But like in my case, I said, okay, forgiven, but note to self. And I hope that none of that occurs in the future, but I have indeed made note to self.
Well, exactly. And we're coming out of this very just treacherous political season. Mm-hmm. And there was an absolute 100% clear winner, and that's it. And the side that didn't win, they're really confused, and they're really looking for a new North Star. They didn't realize how essentially against what a vast majority of the country was for. And they're feeling lost. They're feeling scared. Some of them legitimately think that, there's some sort of zombie apocalypse that's about ready to happen. They legitimately believe that horrible things are going to happen, and they want to hold on to those thoughts and those emotions. You have to forgive them, and you have to give them time. So over time, they'll realize that was just a bunch of political hype that they got pulled into. And maybe sometime in the future, you'll be hanging out with them, and you guys will all laugh how contentious everything got and how much they got wrapped up. Or maybe it was you that got wrapped up in some political movement that you now realize was just a big mass manipulation. So give everyone an opportunity to de-escalate emotionally, to take a breath. And that's
forgiveness is a Christian value too. You can forgive people for, getting kind of whipped up into some confrontational and, scary stuff. But I think we all need to take a breath. We're all in this together. Everybody's in the same country.
And avoid allowing anybody to put you into a group or a bucket. That definitely causes a lot of dissension. That causes a lot of dissension, and it causes a breakdown of really what makes our country great. So if you have been labeling yourself in a particular way, I'm conservative, I'm a this, I'm the other thing, maybe you de-escalate that too, and you just remember what we all truly are Americans. And that is what we are, and that's how we will, and this country will become really, truly amazing again, which, by the way, I think everyone's going to be absolutely mesmerized by how fast, once, essentially all the vitriol starts to seep out of the culture, how fast people come back and realize how amazingly unique and special being a citizen of this country is.
Yes, and it's already being called the golden age.
Yeah, I heard that too yesterday.
Several times. I heard it today too. So I hope that sticks. All right, back to our points of how to be grateful and get the results. All right, number 12, display gifts thoughtfully. Incorporate client or friend gifts in your office or on social media. For example, you can take a photo with flowers they sent you and tag them with thanks. So, be respectful. Somebody was thoughtful enough to give you something, display them thoughtfully. Not forever, but, enough to be grateful.
But even if it's just a word of praise that they maybe put on your Google business page or whatever, you want to take a screenshot of it and post it on Instagram and then tag them and let them know how much you appreciate it. Always show more appreciation. If someone said, Bob did a really good job in my closing of the transaction, you need to give Bob more praise back for his shout out about your success helping him than really the nature of what his original compliment was, right? Helping you, Bob, and your family was one of the greatest pleasures of this year. I was so happy to be those types of things. That's what really makes it special.
Yes, well said. Number 13, reach out with a quick note. If a friend or client crosses your mind, send a quick message, thinking of you, hope everything is well, to let them know that you care. A call is better, but you can certainly do a note, a text, a social media post. Okay, number 14, pay it forward. You can pay for somebody's coffee behind you in line by simply asking the cashier, can I cover the next person's order? They'll handle it from there. That's kind of a fun thing to do at the grocery store, Starbucks, or what have you. Okay, number 15 is a big one. Apologize with intention. When you need to apologize, you can say, I'm sorry for whatever it was. I realize it affected you, and I'll work on it. Focus on the other person's feelings. Don't just do the apology to get it over with. That's a big thing. And I know that they covered that, for example, in etiquette class, how to properly apologize.
Well, walk through that, Julie, because that's something we've talked about before in the podcast. I mean, that's a big thing. So to properly apologize, there's
several parts to it. One is you state the exact thing that was offensive to the person. Even if you don't 100% agree with it, I am sorry for doing X. I'm sorry about the birthday party thing, okay? Then you say, I realize, you acknowledge that it had an effect. I'm sorry that that offended you. I'm sorry that that had hurt feelings. And then you say, I'm going to work on that, okay? There's 3 steps to that. When you say what you actually did, you're not dodging that you did it, okay? The second thing is you're acknowledging how it made somebody feel. You're not making it about you anymore.
But we were teaching Zoe this, and then Zoe, I remember what she said to us. She said, well, what if I don't actually think what I did was wrong?
Right.
And then Zoe, it doesn't matter if you think what you did was wrong. They thought what you did was wrong in their eyes. So you need to say, I apologize if you feel what I did was wrong. Or I apologize if you feel
that you feel that
way. Not that you're not lying about, having offended somebody in your mind. You're actually just simply meeting them where they're at and apologizing just to de-escalate. And so here it's fascinating as we went through all these points when Julie and I were writing these. It is very interesting to me that so few people will do this. And you got to ask yourself, why is it that people don't take the high road when situations like this? I mean, good Lord, look at what's going on in our culture right now. And again, hopefully that's all in our rear view. But it's ego. That's why. Because people don't want to admit they're wrong. It makes people feel morally superior or just, whatever superior to the other person. And I am so tired of people saying dumb shit like they're dead to me and all this other crap. That's just your ego. That's you not wanting to deal, even if you don't think you did something wrong, even if they did something wrong to you. What's the real benefit essentially of increasing the confrontation or basically stirring the pot even to a higher degree? It doesn't even make sense. And really what the power of it is if you become the peacemaker in your life, if you become the peacemaker in your community, if you become the person that is known to have really high, manners in this case, or morals, which is really what manners are, if you were to actually think like that and act like that, think about what that's going to do to your actual reputation, your brand in the community. That's what this all circles back around. This is the essence. A lot of this stuff that we help you guys to hopefully understand on this podcast and certainly in our coaching. This is the truth about what it takes to be a substantial person in life and certainly in business. Our dog is next to us.
And he's snoring.
He's snoring. Max is snoring. So if you guys hear a strange noise, that's our dog snoring. Max.
He's having a dream. He heard his name.
I'm so tired of listening to mom and dad do podcasts.
Yeah,
it's boring. All right. So anyway, next point, Julie.
Okay. Number 16, tip generously when you have great service. Leave a 25 to 30% tip with a note like, thanks for the fantastic service, or refer to what they did. Thanks for always keeping my Diet Coke full, whatever it is. especially during the holidays. You got to think about all of these hospitality people, the servers, the waiters, the waitresses, the people in the hotels. They're working their butts off.
Well, people you see on a regular basis. So if you're like the example we often give, Trista met the Starbucks manager
She's
in
great.
New Albany. And so, Julie and I, there was always a line going out the front door usually. And it was winter, half the year in Columbus practically,
Yeah.
And people would stand in line even outside waiting for their coffee. This was back when Starbucks was really a novelty, I think.
Yes.
And I doubt if people
know.
do that anymore. So we got to know her, and we got to know her because we always would basically be super nice and friendly to her, because generally speaking, we are super nice and friendly. It isn't contrived. But then we'd also give her a nice tip. And, super nice and friendly, nice tip. Generally speaking, the person's going to remember you.
Yeah.
And so what she would do every morning when we would go there, and we could have made coffee at home, but we went there because we were getting leads. Here's what would happen. We'd be standing there in line, and she would shout out to us with maybe, I don't know, usually 15 or 20 people around us, some of which we knew, but many we didn't. And she'd say, "Hey, Tim and Julie, how's the real estate market?" And that's how she would get these conversations started with us. And sure enough, in line, we'd start having all these fun conversations with folks about real estate. And
She was awesome.
She did that for years. And, we also got Starbucks to sponsor some of our local community charity events too, just from that
Thanks to her.
relationship with her.
Yeah.
So just keep these things in mind. And remember, you ultimately, what you are is obviously a real estate professional, and your job is to be of service to folks in your community, transacting real estate. But what you are beyond that is you're a person of influence in the truest sense. And your job is to bring to the community really maybe behavioral norms that everyone's searching for in earnest, especially after the election.
Yeah, and the thing is, none of this is difficult.
No.
It's just reminders mostly.
Julie, every single person listening, if they're over, I don't even know what, I would say everybody knows what we're saying. Everybody's been taught this at some
But
point.
we all have to practice it harder.
Well, because they've moved away from it. Because,
That is true.
people have become sort of, again, the last, I don't even know, I would even say even more than 4 years. I'd say the last 8 years
Yeah.
has been so contentious. So like it's been so normalized for people to be comfortable having really terrible
Being in their
manners.
face, and especially online has become terrible. I think it's worse because there's no immediate backlash from bad behavior online. But yeah, to your point, people have gotten too comfortable with it. Thus,
have.
our 3-part podcast. Okay, number 17, learn and use names. Practice using names during conversations to make people valued. You can use apps like Evernote. I use my contacts to add notes when I meet new people. That way you can remember their names, their details. When I have like pet names, kid names, what grade their kids in, where I met them, who I met them through. I have all that in my contacts. And you can, if I just had that in my iPhone in the notes. So it does matter to use people's names. And I try to repeat their name in front of them 2 or 3 times. And then I'll say, gosh, I'll probably ask you again next time I see you, but I'm going to try and remember your name. I did that this morning in that horrible, no good, very bad, awful boot camp class that I did. I shouldn't say that. It's good for me.
Well, just do a phone bump and, off iPhones.
Yeah, there you go.
And just do a phone bump or, take a picture of them. Or what I do sometimes, especially at the gym, because everyone looks like they're at the gym,
Yeah.
is I'll just essentially take a picture of their phone number, just that kind of thing. And then message them right away and just say something nice to keep the conversation going and keep the relationship frosty in their minds.
Yes. All right. Last but not least today, say yes more than you say no. Be open to attending events. Even if you don't think it's totally your jam, try it out, especially the ones that are hosted by clients. Accepting invites helps keep you visible and engaged with your network. All of you guys like to post online. You're not going to believe so-and-so got my listing away from me. That was my past client. I've driven past that house 14 times. Okay, great. How many times did you actually support that person? Did you go to their holiday party? Did you door knock them? Did you pop by? Did you send them a yearly anniversary for their closing? Did you send them a birthday card? You've got to say yes more than you say no.
Well, but Julie, all the sending and all the passive stuff is now, and this is your point, right?
Yeah.
It's nowhere near as powerful as basically people seeing you in person.
Yes.
Because the truth is if you aren't constantly surrounding yourself with, let's just say, for example, you're trying to become a true neighborhood specialist. And let's say it's a community that's got a few thousand homes and it's all focused around maybe a community center, maybe it's a country club, whatever, right? There's places that people, generally speaking, are going to see each other on a regular basis. If you're not participating in those things, very quickly people are going to forget about you and other relationships will get formed with other agents. And that's all it takes. So if you're not constantly reinforcing your friendships and your relationships, they didn't drop you and decide that they just don't like you. You just stopped doing the work. And if you stop doing the work, if you stop showing up, they're going to move their relationship focus to somebody else or other people. That's just the nature of people, and they're not even doing it consciously. I used to see Tim and Julie all the time at the gym, and whatever happened to that, incredibly handsome guy and that average looking girl? What was their name? and they used to be here all the time, and And well, they would forget our names inside, 2 weeks, probably. They would just say, well, I guess they moved or something else happened to them. For a long time after COVID, we would walk around, and it's a 6-mile walk around our neighborhood. And people would see us all the time walking. And it didn't take too long that we realized that we had a nickname of the walkers.
Yeah.
And so people would start talking to us. And we got this joke going that we're looking for our golf cart. We don't remember where we parked it, and we're out looking for it. And to this day, people will come up to us and say if we found it yet.
It is funny. It's fun to keep that going. But, these are voice-to-voice, face-to-face conversations, guys. I think we need to bring back more of that and get back to real conversations. You'll be thrilled and amazed how much more impactful that is than just doing every single thing digitally, or worse, not doing it at all.
Yeah, let everyone else build their CRMs and do their branding and their lead generation and their Instagramming and all this stuff. I realize all that stuff is fun. It's like an artistic release if you're of that ilk. But the real work of real estate is always going to be done belly to belly. And this is going to be more true as time marches on and AI becomes more prolific in real estate. Everybody and their brother and their dog is going to be essentially a real estate influencer by cranking out social media constantly. Everyone's going to be a brilliant writer because ChatGPT is going to write all these elegant things. Everything is going to be the same except the meaningful conversations that you can have with people in real life. The people that are going to be the big winners, not just in real estate and life in general, are going to be the ones that have all their AI assistants. They're called AI agents, by the way, doing the work in the shadows for them, doing all the busy work that you guys think is the most important work, which it truly never has been, while they're out having real meaningful conversations and making relationships, being themselves, doing what they like to do around other people that like to do the same things. That's how hard this business is ultimately. It's not hard. It's fun. And again, if you really want to fast forward your business, then you integrate doing proactive lead generation and all the rest of those things. But if you're doing proactive lead generation, calling expireds, for example, in a community, and a lot of people know you and a lot of people respect you and they see you in different social things that they are also interested in, you don't think that's going to give you an enormous advantage when it comes to actually listing that expired or getting that business from that reload buyer or whatever it is? You don't think that's going to have a hell of a lot more power than the agent that spent years creating all the YouTube videos? Of course it is. And that's frankly a lot more fun and a lot more profitable and a lot more guaranteed as far as future results, as far as the money it's going to make you. You think your social media is evergreen, like it's going to last forever. It doesn't. It goes stale within like a day or two of you even posting it. All you see of YouTube videos, oh, what are you talking about, Tim? I have 5,000 YouTube videos that are making me the mayor of my town. How long will it take for somebody else to replicate what you've done using AI? I got an answer for you. Literally probably a week. AI is going to be able to generate so many videos using so much of this, voiceover, all the things. And all of you who've not yet learned and accepted the fact that the real work of real estate and life in general is done belly to belly, you guys are going to be wondering what the hell happened. And I'm telling you right now, it's going to happen faster than you think, obviously. So please heed this warning and really see it as a benefit because you still have time to really shift your mindset, load new software, and become the highest version of yourself as a real estate practitioner. Guys, thank you for keeping this #1 listen to daily podcast for real estate agents in at least the United States. Have a fantastic day. Tune in tomorrow for part 3.